Greetings from the APO Secretariat, and thank you, viewers. And I would like especially to thank uh, Digital Minister Audrey Tang for sharing your time with us. So we are talking about what we call digital technology, and I would like to really appreciate Audrey. I will call you Audrey if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just call me Audrey.
yeah. And let me, by way of introduction, invite you to let us know what is your preoccupation at this point of time. We know all the achievements, what you have done relating to the what you call this the COVID-19. But I would like to go beyond that,
Yes.
and if you can, let's start by your introduction and especially your preoccupation at this point of time. Please, Audrey.
Yes, I have a video about COVID, but as you have requested, please share my screen where I will share my job description to you. I'm Taiwan's digital minister in charge of social innovation and open government. And my job description, which I'm projecting on my screen, I don't know if the staff can bring it up, is this. It's the idea that the digital enables us to listen at scale. And the point here is that we need to work with all the people taking all the sides so that the digital can connect people with different positions and find common values. In Sustainable Development Goal terms, that is the 17th goal, including 1718, which is about enhancing reliable data, 1717, effective partnership, and 176, open innovation. And my job description is literally a poem, which I would like to read to you before launching into the video. My job description reads like this. When we see the Internet of Things, let's make it an Internet of beings. When we see virtual reality, let's make it a shared reality. When we see machine learning, let's make it about collaborative learning. When we see user experience, let's make it about human experience. And whenever we hear that the singularity is near, let us always remember the plurality is here. And how do we tackle the challenge of our times, the infodemic, climate change, and the pandemic with the power of plurality? That is the point of the video. So maybe we can view the video and do some Q&A.
your latest, the
Talk today is
latest.
about digital social
Yeah.
innovation.
Sorry. Okay. Audrey, I think I have also followed you from the, of course, Mr. Google or Miss Google, and yes, there are so many information about you, and really, this is one of the accolades. But let me underline some of the points that is actually make it very effective, very interesting from our point of view, and that is the credo of also putting it fun. I think you put the word fun and that becomes a principle, and that, and in a very tough moment, I think injecting fun is also necessary so that we are not all, we reduce the stress on that. Let me continue, Audrey, and then as I said, I would like to go beyond. Yeah, COVID is one of the accelerator, for example, but I would like to look at the current status, the current progress. One of the application, the successful application in your case is about handling the COVID. But my question is, Audrey, where are we actually now at this point out, and in terms of the progress of the digital technology development, and where are we heading? How would you describe our current state of progress?
Excellent question. So in Taiwan, please show my screen. And I apologize for not rehearsing the video playing. So people watching live stream said that some of the people could not hear the sound. I couldn't either, but there was a caption. So I hope the main point gets through about the fast, the fair, and the fun. In Taiwan, I have this small poem, I guess, that says, that interprets the idea of the global goals and how Taiwan can help. And where are we? We're in Taiwan. We're in a swirling ocean. We're beautiful islands. And where are we heading to? We're heading to a transcultural republic of citizens, which is my English translation of the name of the country. And that means the transcultural means that in Taiwan, there's more than 20 national languages, many more cultures. It's just like the various tectonic plates around Taiwan bumping into each other all the time. We too are looking at a lot of ideological clashes, the different norms, the different ideas around the digital. For example, there's a nearby jurisdiction that think the citizen should be transparent to the state. That's the PRC model. There's also people that says everybody should trust multinational global capitalist companies. That's another model, whether it's Mr. or Miss Google or Facebook. And the other point here is in Taiwan, there's people who believe firmly that the social sector should make data collaboratives and jointly share the data. For example, this is environmental data as measured by the primary school teachers everywhere in Taiwan. There's nothing about it that is concentrated in the capitalist market or from a state actor. So the social sector or the civic sector and the private sector or the economic sector or the public sector or the government, these three sectors form very different norms around data, around the digital. And I believe in Taiwan, what we have done uniquely is that we always make the innovations come from the social sector as much as it comes from the economic sector. The government, instead of asking, like between the two sides that have this tension, for example, between economic development and environmental protection, or between innovation and fairness of the society, whenever there's a trending hashtag, instead of asking who are the arbiter and who make the final call, we ask, are there ideas that take care of all the people's different positions? And these ideas, if they turns out to be Pareto improvement, meaning that it doesn't sacrifice any side, then the government actually amplifies it instead of trying to make a decision within the government. So this is called the idea of open government. And I'm in the Social Innovation Lab, which is my office right now. And as you can see, there's many people outside working on the Sustainable Development Goals. 11 and people outside here are doing all sort of exhibitions and shows and things like that. It's a free place. It's a park. There is no wall. Everybody can walk in and have 40 minutes of my time if they agree to be on the record. And that is, I think, where we're heading. It's a transcultural vision that will make people see their shared values out of different positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. And that really actually jives with my next question. And that is about inclusiveness of technology. And uh, actually, you mentioned a couple of key points there, and that is the power of plurality, for example, yeah, and then also that innovation should come from the social sector.
That's right.
And actually, my question actually is about the challenges of the inclusiveness of digital technology. And one, I have two questions later on. One is who there's a paradigm that the technology development is basically the exclusive what they call this privilege of those with with strong economy. But is there any shift now in that paradigm? Who benefit, and what happened to those countries who are not really yet economically developed? And how do you see the priorities in terms of infrastructures, in terms of education and skills, and also in terms of rules and regulations?
Excellent questions. So in Taiwan, although we, of course, is a very strong, connected country, we have more than 23 million people, but from the northmost to the southmost municipality through high-speed rails is just 95 minutes, so it's very densely packed. So this makes sure that when there's a good idea, it gets amplified very quickly. However, this airbox, the social sector, the distributed ledger that they use to make sure that everybody can see in the here and now the air pollution level and so on, are built upon the idea of open innovation. The hardware is open hardware, Raspberry Pi or Arduino. The software is open source software, which means everybody in the less technologically advanced countries, they can simply download our code from GitHub or from GitLab and run it locally, and also source very open specifications using the open designs of the hardware, and they too can build the Airbox network, and they have done so, like here, right? So you can see in the global ledger that this technology that came out from Taiwan spread through the entire world as Target 4.7, education for sustainable development and global citizenship. Anyone who wants to join this global distributed ledger can very easily do so. And many primary school teachers and high school teachers around the world did precisely that. So the question is that the research may be done in the more advanced countries, but as long as there is no patent or copyright restriction restricting its use of appropriate technologies, then everybody around the world can freely innovate and remix those technologies as they see appropriate. So that is the first answer. Now, the second answer is how does it apply to infrastructure? I will use one example. Every year, we run a presidential hackathon where there's more than 200 teams this year. Each one need to focus on one or more sustainable development goals. And at the end of the competition, which lasts for many months, 5 winners receive a trophy. 2 years ago, Water Savior was one of the teams that received the trophy. What they did, because they save water, is that they listened to the various different pipes around Taiwan and find the place that leak. However, relying on manual listening to the pipes is very time consuming. On average, it took 2 months between a pipe leaking for it to be discovered by these professionals. So they work with experts in machine learning to make sure that they can wake up and see a chatbot telling them what are the more likely leaking places near them with around 70% accuracy. So now it's been shortened to 2 days. And they win the trophy. This is what the trophy looks like. I'm not very good at drawing, but the idea is that this is basically a shape of the Taiwan island, and the microprojector. When they turn on the microprojector, it will show President Dr. Tsai Ing-wen handing the team the trophy, promising whatever they have done in the past 3 months will get sufficient resource to roll out across the country in the next 12 months. And because it corresponds to a sustainable goal, in this case 6.4, increasing water use efficiency and ensure fresh water supplies, everybody around the world who focus on these issues, for example, in New Zealand, can invite them to co-create a solution for their water pipes. And they did that. They went to Wellington for another 3 months, co-creating an AI machine learning system, a assistive intelligence for the local water leakage detection. And so that is the kind of international collaboration around infrastructure that we are looking at. For everybody who solved their infrastructure problem, as long as they do two things. First, identify it with the SDG goal, precise 6.4. Second, willing to share in an open innovation way to anyone. Then that infrastructure improvement also gets benefit from the network effect and can help solving global scale problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Audrey. And that's really an illustration about the power of plurality and collective intelligence. And since you also mentioned about the SDGs, let me put it further as well. Yeah? And as you know, there are these perpetual fundamental challenges of hunger, of poverty, and what is can you share your vision? How can the digital technology actually elevate humanity and address these fundamental issues or challenges such as poverty and hunger?
Thank you. Yes, this is very important. You mentioned the basic challenges that societies are facing, and these are, of course, the SDGs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and which are putting an end to poverty and making sure that people stay healthy, get education, and of all sorts of hunger and gender balance. Of course, at the same point, that's the development, we also need to solve global scale issues such as life under the water, above the land, mitigating the climate change, and ensuring, as I mentioned, fresh water supplies and sanitation. However, previously, the teams working on these different issues, they don't always collaborate. They don't always understand that it is actually in their best interest to scale out each of their solutions and build for example, for circular economy, build a business case for the business people to engage in circular design and industrialization with AI towards job growth without sacrificing the economy and taking care of the environment at the same time. And so building a common understanding is the most important part. The digital technology can help giving an account of how exactly you're doing business with a certain circular design company, replacing plastic straws of our national drink, bubble tea, with something that's made out of circular design products that realize not only zero waste, but also reduce the total carbon footprint because it was from agric materials, and so on. And so basically, digital technology can assure everybody from consumers to prosumers, co-producers, to explain what's going on and make sure that people, instead of just doing social sanction, do preferential purchase, do their habit change, and nudge them towards working only with the supply chain that works with a positive social and environmental value. And instead of just boycotting the one that causes negative externalities, digital technology can help us choose from the vendors, from the supply chain partners that take care of the people. And so this is what the presidential hackathon team looked like last year. This is our top 20. We use a digital technology called quadratic voting to make sure that everybody can share whether they think these projects produce positive, negative environmental and social gains. And quadratic voting which is running on the national participation platform, which has more than 10 million active visitors, which is almost half of our population, goes like this. Everybody gets 99 points, and they can choose a SDG that they feel as the most important and the solution most pertinent. And if they vote for 1 vote, that's going to cost 1 point. 2 votes cost 4. 3 votes will cost 9, which is why it's called quadratic. So the most you can vote is 81 points toward 9 votes toward a idea. However, because you have 99, so you have 18 left, you will probably find something else and vote 4 votes, which costs 16, and you still have 2 left. So people would look at 2 other SDG solutions and vote for that. And the great thing about this method is that because the marginal cost is the same as marginal return, people will do maybe a 7 and 7 or things like that and find the maximal synergy between those ideas, which we then use to coach those teams to become trisectoral. That is to say, to combine the civic, the economic, and the public sectors people into those teams that combines assistive intelligence with collective intelligence. Unlike previous voting methods, like 1 person, 1 vote, which results in everybody feeling that they have lost for a certain referenda, or half people feeling they have lost using QV, because on average people learn about 5 to 7 SDGs right there, and one of their supported team will probably make to the top 24 this year. Everybody feel that they have contributed and that have won, and that is participatory mechanism design. This is only possible with digital technology, because paper-based balloting is very difficult to do this kind of back and forth of this incremental democratic process. We have many more designs like that. This is just one example. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Audrey. And let me first give this opportunity at this point of time. We have received a number of questions, and allow me to read some of the questions to you. Before then, later on, we pick up again our discussion. Now, I will start with a question. Actually, this is from the USA. The name is Dennis Spacey, and it says that I am a big fan of Minister. How can we guarantee transparent and reliable technology, given how easy it is to manipulate public opinions with technology? So it's actually transparency and reliability.
Yeah, this is a great question. So social media, as we know, could be antisocial. And that means that people with malicious intent, causing intentional public harm, can manipulate public opinions using intentional ideas that are toxic and that spreads. And so I shared about the humor over rumor in the video, and I understand that there was no voice, but I will go through that part again because that is critical. So the idea of humor over rumor is very simple. If a message that causes outrage spreads, then it has a higher than 1 R value, meaning each person receiving it tend to share it to more than 1 person. And how do we put an end to it? Taiwan, because we are a country with many different ideas and we have absolute freedom of speech, we do not use takedown. Rather, we use the memes of the internet. For example, when there was a time where people said that there's going to be a $1 million fine for perming your hair starting next week. Within 2 hours, we always push this out within 2 hours. Within 2 hours, we push this internet meme that says that's not true. And our prime minister says, I may be bald now, but I will not punish people who look like my youth. And the fine print that says, what we've done is a labeling requirement for hair products that takes effect on July 2021. And the prime minister, as he looks now, says, however, if you perm your hair many times a week, it will not damage your pocket, but it will damage your hair. Just look at me for what will happen to you. So this is very funny. This went viral. And the original conspiracy theory just died down. Nobody spread it anymore because this works like a vaccine. When you feel joy and fun, literally you cannot feel outrage at the same time. And so public inoculation through real-time responses, that's on average 60 minutes across all ministries, that is of timely response, that is of essence. So that's the part of that. And the other thing is about transparency. If we make sure that our communication is bidirectional, that is to say, not just single directional, then we make sure that the technologists can look at each and every behavior of the technology and guarantee the fairness of it. So I shared already in the video that we trust citizens with open data, but the more than 100 tools, I must stress, none of it is produced by the government. We just publish with an open API the real-time stock levels of medical masks in your nearby pharmacy, in all pharmacies, in a distributed ledger. And more than 100 people have a copy of that ledger. And if you go to your nearby pharmacy with your NHI card to purchase 9 masks per 2 weeks if you're an adult, 10 masks if you're a child, you actually see after a couple of minutes, the number decrease by 9 or 10. And if you see something is wrong, you just call 1922 and tell them something is wrong. So this is participatory accountability that makes sure that ordinary citizens can all hold each other really to account and ensure that technology is working the way it should. And if it's not working the way it should, the pharmacists will just let us know on the feedback form or calling 1922, and then their idea become the Central Epidemic Command Center's new policy next day, and everybody will listen about it in the daily 2 p.m. press conference. So full feedback loop of accountability is even more important than just one-sided transparency from the state to the people. The people's participation also need to get timely response, and that's at the core of accountability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Audrey. And I guess there's a similar question, but I think you have answered it. Let me just read it anyway. This is from Chaka Botti. And actually, he was asking the trust and how is Taiwan doing it differently. And so I think your answer with this participatory responsibility, I think that also answered that question about accountability and trust. And let me move to a different question, and this is from Singapore, Mr. Kelvin Chan. And this is about the open innovation and co-creation that you mentioned. And his question is, how do you address the question of copyright ownership of this issue about stemming from open innovation and co-creation?
Okay, the basic idea is very simple. Every social innovation that we thought and share with the world are open. So we run a coronavirus hackathon, the CoHack, and you can just quickly see that the teams participating in this event with the spirit of open source and agree to use the MIT license as the authorization clause, okay? And the MIT license is not the Made in Taiwan license. It's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology license, which means that everybody is free to use this software for any purpose whatsoever, including commercial purposes. But of course, there is no warranty implied or otherwise from the original makers to your remixes and uses. This is the most popular permissive software license. So that is how we co-develop with other jurisdictions without worrying about copyright, because when everybody agree to use an open source license, collaboration happens automatically. Thank you.
That's the question, Calvin. And I hope you don't mind I continue with questions, Audrey. And I still have at least one more from Singapore at this point of time. And this is from Zhang Wei. And the question is, how do you draw the line between public and private sector in terms of tech innovation? Should we define public good for those innovation from private sector as well?
Okay, that's a great question. But as I showed, I will use one concrete example. As I showed on my screen, the idea is that it should first begin with a conversation in the social sector. The
Mm,
social sector should draw that line. The social sector, meaning that the people who have a particular idea how to make the society better, and everybody can participate, almost by definition, have different voices. And so, for example, there was a year in 2015 where Uber offered to people with no professional driver's license, with surge pricing and novel techniques of profit sharing, and say you should start riding your cars when you're going on work or off work, and pick up passengers and charging them for it. That's called Uber X. And when Uber X came to Taiwan, many different civil society organizations feel very differently. The Taxi Association, of course, feel very differently from the Taiwan, Innovation Economy Association and Sharing Economy Association. But these are all civil society organizations. So we work with the social sector, the CSOs, asking them to share their ideas, how they feel about it. And what you're looking at is a real visual outline, this projection of all the CSOs' different ideas and the friends and families on social media that I share. So I see my friends and family of different CSOs. They have different positions, but they're still my friends. And the process goes through this. We first share the open data from the government, private, and social sector about ride sharing. We ask for 3 to 4 weeks what people feel about it. There's no right or wrong about feelings. You can feel happy, they can feel angry, it's all okay. And then people start brainstorming the ideas. The best idea are now the idea that take care of most people's feelings. That's
mm,
where you draw the line. And then the idea that have rough consensus that everybody can live with become our new regulation. So Uber X is legal now in Taiwan, but they have to register the Q taxi company, and the taxi associations and so on are all benefiting from the new regulation that provides surge pricing and other dynamic pricing structures. And so the design of the mechanism called POLIS begins with one simple question for randomly for each newcomer. They can see a fellow CSO, actually that's me, because I was not part of the government at the time. I think passenger liability insurance should be mandatory. Now you can agree, in which case your avatar move a little bit toward me. Or you can disagree, in which case your avatar move a little bit far from me. But the point here is that there is no reply button. All our public consultation using POLIS has no reply button. Because with the reply button, people can make personal attack. There's a chance for it to become anti-social media. But without the reply button, there's no chance of this being antisocial. It is by definition pro-social. After you press agree or disagree a few times, you will be prompted to also share your own feelings for other people to upvote or downvote, that is to say to resonate or not. And the software continuously calculates through machine learning techniques the most divisive points and project that through dimension reduction. And then they also use k-means clustering to count the various different groups. And I must stress that this is not a voting, this is not a majority voting. If you have 5,000 people who feel exactly the same way, mobilize here to vote the same, you may see an extra zero here, but the area do not grow. We measure diversity, we do not measure the strength of numbers. So always after each consultation, we have this picture, which may be the most important picture. If you can only remember one thing, please remember this. This is reflecting the polity back to itself. This is open space technology. This makes sure that people see there may be 5 ideological questions that divides people. But by far, most people agree with most of their neighbors on most of the things, most of the time. It's just that the social media and some institutional media over-focus on the divisiveness and forget that there's plenty of things that we're not doing that actually have brought acceptance. So this is a real conversation running Bowling Green, Kentucky. No matter people self-identify as Republican or Democrat, everybody agree that the current basic education, where there was science, technology, engineering, and math. It should be actually STEAM, which has art in it, because art is also creative. Now, if the mayor accepts this consensus, they get automatically more legitimacy and support. And there's no drawback because nobody is against that. There's far more rough consensus item like this than social media would lead us to believe. And so to answer that question, the social sector need to use pro-social media to draw the line and let the private and public sector know what to focus on. And that is the main point of social innovation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Audrey. Let me continue the questions, and this will we have discussed cases, but now it will come down to you, Audrey, and this is about actually what there's a question from Thomas Cook, USA, with regard to technology. When do you feel most frustrated, and how do you resolve this?
Okay, this is a great question. So, truth to be told, I do not feel frustration. I'm joining this work for fun, and this work tells me that I can listen to all the different sides, taking all the different sides. I'm the most joyful when I go to the place with least connectivity. For example, here I think it's Hualien, the eastern side of Taiwan, or maybe the remote islands. They still have broadband as human right, but many of these people, because it's hard to travel to Taipei, think that central government is very far from them. But we use digital technology to connect them, and sometimes with even indigenous translators, to the people in the Social Innovation Lab in Taipei, which are all like 12 different ministries, all section chief or higher, and they see each other eye to eye to talk about the issues that's raised by the local social sector, the local co-ops, social entrepreneurs, not-for-profits, and so on, indigenous elders. And so this gives me immense joy to connect the people in a way that they couldn't do before. They, of course, can do local town hall, but previously their town hall did not have central government people participating and answering the questions. So I'm most frustrated when the internet breaks down during such teleconferences. But of course, we work very hard to make sure that this live streaming do not break down. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Yes, that must have that would be have frustrating if that happens. Let me then continue and the question on you. Basically, this will come from me, and this is about your vision on innovation and breakthrough in the coming years. Well, my question is, what can we harness from the digital technology to make our life even more exciting, yeah, augmenting and amplifying the values of humanity?
Yeah, this is a great question, a lovely question. So I'm in the Social Innovation Lab, and people come to me all the time with new innovations. And this is my favorite. I'm going to share this. This is a self-driving vehicle, but this is not your ordinary car. This is a tricycle. And the main thing going for it is that it's open technology. Every part of it, the hardware, the software, and so on, is open innovation, free of patent and copyright. So you can change it however you will. It is modular. And so people bring this to me saying, Minister, we don't know what to do with these, but we would like a place, a sandbox to try these out. I'm like, okay, you need to work with people around it. So we run a few mobility hackathons where we invited people who live nearby to try out these new vehicles and brainstorm and discover what the society wants out of it. Now, the place is near the Jianguo Flower Market, literally just 2 minutes walk. And you can now, because we tore down the wall, see this place directly from the direction of the Jianguo Flower Market, which is around this place. And then, so people have some pots of flowers. They just walk to the Social Innovation Lab. I remember there was an elderly couple that saw these things and said, Minister, what are you doing with those shopping carts? And I'm like, no, this is not a shopping cart. This is a self-driving vehicle. You sit on it, you tell it where you go, it slowly drives you down. And they're like, no, we have cars, we maybe hire a taxi, we don't need this thing drives us around. But let's try putting this flower into the basket, like this flower. And so they tried putting it into the basket, and it worked. So it can take some shopping good. And so they said, okay, this enables us to do hands-free shopping. I can keep shopping. This vehicle follows me around, and then I shop, I put into the basket. And they said, there's platooning, right? The self-driving vehicles, they saw it on TV, that they can form a fleet. So once this becomes full, it can step back, summon a new one, and form a fleet so they can continue to do hands-free shopping. Now, the original makers of this technology have never envisioned this use, but this use makes sense. So when the market and the society around it form a social norm, this is the norm first innovation. It always makes more people happy, augmenting about it, because, hey, this idea came from themselves. And so to work with the market, of course, the Jianguo flower market will have to adjust a little bit. But then it also tells the code makers, that's us, to change how it looks like. Even though it uses LiDAR, it doesn't really need the eyes. However, these eyes help because these eyes can turn. It can let people around the vehicle know who they are following. And there's a lot of just very simple changes like this that needed to be done if you're co-domesticating with those self-driving vehicles. And that norm then informed the market, informed the code, and finally we regulate it. Of course, we're still early on when it comes to self-driving vehicle regulation, but I think next week, starting from the Xinyi bus lane, after the metro closes in the midnight, there's going to be around 30 people capacity self-driving buses that starts to drive around in the street in Taipei that learns from the co-domestication that we did in the past couple of years from this sandbox experiment about self-driving vehicles. And that makes the city more enjoyable and more fun. This is not about smart city, this is about smart citizens. Thank you.
Audrey, and that is really exciting. That is really inspiring. And let me recap a couple of key points that I really like and appreciate and admire you during this discussion. That is about plurality, about collectiveness, about having fun, and being open. I think this is something that really give us a new age if we are willing to do that. And Audrey, I would like to give you perhaps an opportunity. Either you want to cite another poem. I'm not good at poem, by the way, so I will let you do your poem, or you can leave a message to us, yeah, before we close.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to reiterate the point that I made at the very beginning, which is Taiwan can help and Taiwan is helping. So Taiwan can help is the main point that I want you to remember. And you can find a lot of the ideas that I just shared in taiwancanhelp.us. And the most interesting thing about Taiwan can help.us, which you ask who can help, and Taiwan can help. It is not that it features the Taiwan model playbook. Dr. Chen Jianren, our vice president at the time, he's the top epidemiologist, sharing the Taiwan model of countering coronavirus, sharing how we can work with you if you give us a parcel of industrial area. Our vendors can go there and make 2 million medical masks every 24 hours for you, and it's all open innovation. You can keep the know-how and things like that. And it's not about there's more than 600,000 people dedicating more than 5 million masks for humanitarian assistance. The most important thing about this website is not the things that Taiwan is helping, but how this website is done. This website is not a government website. This is a crowdsourced, crowd-funded website from 26,000 contributors. Every single thing here is not a government doing. This is the social sector having things to say to the international community. So please feel free to check out taiwancanhelp.us and read what the contributors have to say. That's the voice of the social sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Audrey. And I will be coming, knocking on your door, yeah, and hope that we can work together even closer. And actually, we have another viewer asking a question. I don't know whether it will be in time still. Receiving this question actually. Uh, so let me try to read it. The question is that is from Indonesia. It is Miss Satsuko Miyakawa. Uh, well, the question is we come back to the COVID, and the question is how we can uh, improve tolerance of the society. Well, this is more on the soft side, perhaps, rather than but the spread is tough. How can we improve the tolerance? Perhaps you have the experience in Taiwan, and if you can kindly give your insights on this as well, Audrey, before we close.
Yes. So as I said, we're a transcultural republic of citizens. That's on my slide in the screen. So I will show a real case where we improve the tolerance of everybody in Taiwan, showing that we're truly a transcultural republic of citizens. And that is a topic I think still very fresh for everybody in Asia, which is marriage equality. Now, people know around a year ago, Taiwan legalized marriage equality. What people may not know is that this was 12 years of gender mainstreaming work. Out of, I think this figure is now more than 40%, gender equality in our parliament, as well as the CSO leaders that forms a theory of change using digital technology in the Gender Equality Commission that looks at all our yearly projects and bills and build the gender dashboards. Every single project and bill need to propose their theory of change, how it improves some parts of gender balance in the society. And even after the project concludes or the bill went out of effect, we keep tracking of all these important numbers of gender equality in all parts. And that informs what we call evidence-based policymaking. And so when the Constitutional Court ruling and the referenda result came out, we very quickly devised a social innovation that legalized the bylaw, but not the in-laws relationship of marriage. That is to say, for people who think that marriage is between family and family, we tell them that same-sex marriage do not actually wed the families. For people who care more about the individual rights and duties, we'll tell them that they enjoy exactly the same rights and duties as heterosexual marriage. And so this way of like the two tectonic plates bumping into one another through the measurements of inequalities lens with gender mainstreaming builds a novel innovation, legalizing the bylaws, but not the in-laws, that gets everybody's common values, the respect of marriage, out of very different positions. Just like the Eurasian plate bumps into the Philippine sea plate, is the other way around. All the time in Taiwan, we have a lot of earthquakes. But if we're resilient enough as a society to take all the sides, then the top of Taiwan, almost 4,000 meters, Savia, the Jade Mountain, grows 3 centimeters every year toward the sky because of this bumping of ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Audrey. And I once again thank you for sharing your rich insights as well as foresights. And a word to our viewers. I was informed that might have been a glitch actually in the opening when there was actually the sound of the video was not there, but we will put the link of the video in our comment section, so then everyone can also see it later. So Audrey, thank you so much. I would like to continue to be in touch, and all the best. and keep healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Live long and prosper and have a good local time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.